Supreme Court has decided that the Maryland man, Kilmar Garcia, must be brought back to the U.S., which probably a good thing. Let me see. The application is granted in part and denied in part, subject to the direction of this order due to the administrative stay issued by Chief Justice. The deadline imposed by the district court is now passed. Okay, that's about the deadline. The United States removed Garcia from the United States to El Salvador, where he is currently being detained in the Center for Terrorism and Confinement. The United States acknowledges that Garcia was subject to a withholding order forbidding his removal to El Salvador, and that the removal to El Salvador was therefore illegal. The United States represents that the removal to El Salvador was the result of an administrative error. The United States alleges, however, that Garcia has been found to be a member of the MS-13, the gang MS-13, a designated foreign terrorist organization, and that his return to the United States would pose a threat to the public. Garcia responds that he is not a member of MS-13 and that he lived in safely in the United States with his family for a decade and has never been charged with a crime. On Friday, the United States Court, District of Maryland, entered an order directing the government to facilitate an effective return of Garcia to the United States, blah, blah, blah. On the morning, the Chief Justice, why would you not? You failed me, Katie. You absolutely failed me. Only upheld the facilitate part. Ah, I see. So I am completely. Indeed, they explicitly state that the trial's court order exceeds its authority. Wait, what? Are you kidding me? I got fucking got. Like everybody's been talking about this. Did I get got? God damn, son. Can we? I seriously thought it would convert it to Spanish. I'm just saying. Anyway, is there any way to make this not bright as fuck? How long is this thing? 4 pages. The application is granted. Due the administration issued. The deadline imposed by the district court is now passed. To that extent, the government's emergency application is effectively granted in part, and a deadline in the challenge order is no longer effective. The rest of the district court's order remains in effect, but requires clarification on remand. The order properly requires the government to facilitate Garcia's release from the custody of El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. The intended scope of the term effective in the district court's order, however, is unclear and may exceed the district court's authority. So yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. The district court should clarify its directive with due regard for the deference owed. Did I fuck it up? I'm on page 3. Sorry, I was trying to make it bigger. The deference owed to the executive branch and conduct of foreign affairs. For this part, the government should be prepared to share what it can concerning the steps it has taken to prosecute further steps. And the prospect of further steps, excuse me. The order heretofore entered by the Chief Justice is vacated. Join respecting the court's decision of the application. They arrested him in Maryland and flew him to the Terrorism Confinement Center in El Salvador, where he was detained for 26 days and counting. To this day, the government has cited no basis in law for his warrantless arrest. I mean, did they not? Is he not an illegal? Is that not grounds to deport his ass? I'm just saying. Like they say they didn't, but if he's an illegal, isn't that grounds to deport him? I don't understand. The government remains bound by an immigration judge's 2019 order to expressly prohibiting Abrigo Garcia's removal to El Salvador because he faced a clear probability of future persecution there and demonstrated that El Salvador's authorities were and would be unable and unwilling to protect him. That's not the pictures I saw of that prison. But, okay. The government has not challenged the validity of that order. Instead of hastening to correct its egregious error, the government dismissed it as an oversight. Yada, yada, yada. Nevertheless, I agree with the court's order. Properly remedy must comply with the obligation. So it appears that is correct. So they agreed that they should facilitate his return, but that's about it. Okay. I guess I'm just going to be confused. I guess that's what we're going to be. Because I actually thought this would be there. Oh, here we go. Okay, now it's actually big enough for my horrible eyes to see it. Can I not get rid of this? There we go. Fucking boomer moment, man. The district court's order remains in effect, but requires clarification on remand. So I guess that means they agreed with the lower court that he should be returned, but how that should be handled is how it should be done. The court overstepped its authority, most likely. So that's what I'm taking away from this, is that they agreed he should be returned, and that but the court's order to force the government to do it by a certain deadline was incorrect, and it appears it went beyond their power, and that's what this is doing. And honestly, here's my thing. Innocent people who are affected by our government should be who are affected badly by our justice system or our government in some way. So like an innocent man goes to jail, or in this case, a man who should not have been deported to El Salvador was deported to El Salvador. Then what should happen is that we should correct the problem, and then we should give him recompense. The form of recompense for this individual, however, I don't know what form. Normally, it would be a monetary value for false imprisonment. If you were an innocent man who was found guilty for whatever reason. So I don't know what they're going to do. There may be nothing, considering it was like only a month, and if he only spends like less than a month there, I don't know what they'll do. And I don't necessarily know what would be fair either. Because there was an order for him to not be deported, true, which the government violated, which I would assume they would say the enemy's alien act. Fucking. The Enemy Alien Act? Is that what the fuck it is? Okay. It is the Alien Enemies Act. And blah, 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 propaganda. I find and declare. Okay. I was hoping it would actually give me... Is this what it is? 1798. So, here is the thing that I thought the law was supposed to do. It was supposed to allow the president to deport enemies of the state, essentially, without judicial review. Of course, it's like, I love this. This is the problem I have with Wikipedia today, is I came here to learn about this bill, right? And literally within the third paragraph, no. Is it right here? Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, one sentence. So essentially the fourth paragraph mentions Donald fucking Trump. Lovely. I guess I'm looking too much into that, because this is like a summary of events up until today. So fair enough. I don't care about the history. Granting the government additional powers to regulate non-citizens that would take effect in times of war. Under this law, the president could authorize the arrest, relocation, and deportation of any male over 14 who hails from a foreign enemy country. It also provides some legal protections for those subject to the law. Unlike other acts, this act was largely unopposed by Democrat Republicans. The Alien Enemies Act was not allowed to expire as the other Alien and Sedition Acts, other Alien and Sedition Acts, and remain in effect. Okay. Okay. So. But I'm just, it's one of those things. It's like I just want to see what the fucking thing says. That's really what I want. Break of war with France, blah 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 blah. And I don't want to have to read this. That's kind of what I was getting at. Delivering him a copy, leaving. Shall depart, shall be found large in the United States. That every master or commander of any ship or vessel. Man, you know. Oh. Master or commander of a ship or vessel. That's great. Vessel. Oh, vessel. Okay. Be further enact the president whenever he's deemed necessary for public safety or order to remove out of the territory thereof any alien who may or shall be in prison or in pursuance of this act, and to cause to be arrested and sent out of the United States, such of those aliens as shall have been ordered to depart therefrom and shall not have obtained a license as aforesaid, in all cases where, in the opinion of the president, the public safety requires speedy removal. It will be lawful for the president to remove, wherever he may deem necessary for public to order to remove out of the territory any. So it shall be lawful for the president of the United States, whenever he deem it necessary, to order to be removed out of the territory thereof any alien who may or shall. I don't know why the fuck is that word there? That's not a typo, dude. Maybe it meant different in this. Shall be any alien who shall be in prison in pursuant of this act, and to cause to be arrested or sent out of the United States, such of those aliens as shall have been ordered them to depart therefrom. So if they've been ordered to depart, if they're in prison and have not obtained a license, so I'm assuming that's like a green card, in the opinion of the president, public safety requires speedy removal. And if any alien so removed or sent out of the United States by the president shall voluntarily return thereto, unless by permission of the president of the United States, such an alien on conviction thereof shall be imprisoned so long as the opinion of the president and the public safety may require. So such an alien on conviction thereof. Okay, so that actually that's due process right there. And to be further acted, every master commander of vessel shall deport. Okay, I'm assuming this has to do with Navy. Shall respectively have all crimes and offenses of this act and marshals. So this is just aliens. Okay, this is alien enemies. Be it enacted by the Senate or House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled that whenever there shall be a declared war between the United States and any foreign nation or government, or any invasion or predatory incursion shall be perpetrated, attempted, or threatened against the territory of the United States by... Can I make this any larger? Yes, I can. Here we go. Okay. By any foreign nation or government, the President of the United States shall make public proclamation of the event. All natives, citizens, denizens, or subjects of the hostile nation or government, being males of the age of 14 years and upwards, shall be within the United States, and not actually naturalized shall be liable to be apprehended, restrained. Okay, so all natives, citizens, denizens, or subjects of the hostile nation or government, being males of age 14 years or upward, so 14 years and older, and is a native, citizen, denizen, or subject of the hostile nation, who shall be within the United States and not naturalized, shall be liable to be apprehended, restrained, secured, and removed as alien enemies. The President of the United States shall be, and he is hereby authorized in any event, as aforesaid, by his proclamation thereof, or the public act, to direct the conduct to be observed on part of the United States toward the aliens who shall become liable. Okay, that was just a bunch of bullshit. So basically, it says he's authorized to do this. The manner and decree of the restraint to which they shall be subject, and in what cases, and upon what security their residence shall be permitted, and to provide for the removal of those who, not being permitted to reside in the United States, shall refuse or neglect to depart therefrom, and to establish any other regulations which shall be found necessary in the premises of public safety, provided that aliens resident within the United States shall become liable as enemies in the manner aforesaid, and who shall not be chargeable with actual hostility or other crime against public safety shall be allowed for the recovery, disposal, and removal of their goods and effects, and for their departure, the full time in which, or shall be stipulated by any treaty where any shall have between the United States and the hostile nation or government, of which they shall be natives, citizens, denizens, and there are no such treaties shall have existed. The President of the United States shall ascertain and declare such reasonable time as may be consistent with public safety, according to the dictates of humanity and the national hospitality. Okay, so President is authorized and directed as part of the United States toward these aliens the manner and decree of restraint in which they shall be subject, and in what cases, upon what security and residence shall be permitted. And to remove them for not being permitted to reside in the United States. If given orders, they can be removed, and to establish any other regulations found necessary in the premises of public safety. Wow, that is fucking broad right there. And to like the president is basically authorized to establish any other regulations which shall be found necessary in the premises and for public safety. That's kind of broad. Provided that alien residents within the United States who shall become liable as enemies, and who shall not be charged with actual hostility or any other crime against public safety, shall be allowed for their recovery, disposal, and removal of their goods and effects, and for their departure in the full time in which, or shall be stipulated by any treaty. Okay, so basically this gives them some protection that they should be allowed to at least evacuate their property. But it is given to it looks to me like this gives the president the ability to say, you have this much time. As long as it's not stipulated by any treaty that we have. President may ascertain and declare such reasonable time as may be consistent with public safety. So yeah, he can basically determine whatever the fuck he wants based on public safety. And be it further enacted that after any proclamation shall be made as... God, I hate that fucking word. It shall be the duty of several courts in the United States and of each state having criminal jurisdiction and several judges and justices in the courts of the United States, and they shall be and hereby respectively authorized upon complaint against any alien or alien enemies who shall be, I'm not saying that fucking word no more, who shall be resident at large within the jurisdiction, danger to public safety, contrary to the tenor or intent of such proclamation, or any other regulations the President of the United States shall and may establish in the premises, cause such aliens to be duly apprehended and convened before a court, or such court, judge, or justice, and after a full examination hearing on such complaint. Okay, that goes against exactly what I said earlier, where It did not appear that they needed to give them normal like judicial review and due process in that way. Apparently, I am 100% wrong. Yeah. So let me continue to go through this. And after full examination of the hearing and complaint, insufficient cause, therefore appearing, shall and may order alien or aliens to be removed out of the territory of the United States, or give sureties of their good behavior, or to be otherwise restrained comfortably to the proclamation and regulations which shall and may be established. Not saying that one in, and may imprison or otherwise secure such aliens until the order which shall be made shall be performed. Okay, so that after the proclamation is made, it's the duty of the courts and of the states having criminal jurisdiction. They are authorized upon complaint against any alien or alien enemies to cause the alien or aliens to be duly apprehended and convened before such court, judge, or justice, and only and after full examination and hearing on such a complaint. So yes, this explicitly states in Section 2 of Alien Enemies that the courts are authorized to apprehend these individuals and give them judgment. That's what it says, I think. And be it further enacted that it shall be the duty of the marshal of the district in which the alien enemy shall be apprehended, or by the court or judge or aforesaid, I said I wouldn't say it, shall be required to depart and there removed, and to provide therefore to execute such an order by himself or his deputy or other discreet persons to be employed by him in causing the removal of such an alien out of the territory of the United States. And for such removal, the marshal shall have been warned of. Okay, so that basically gives the president I believe that it gives the president the ability to assign people to do this. Held in the state of Philadelphia, in the state of Pennsylvania on Monday, the 13th of November. An act in addition to the act entitled An Act for Punishment of Certain Crimes Against the United States. Any person shall unlawfully combine or conspire together with the intent to oppose any measure or measure of the government in the United States, which shall be blah, 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 or to impede the operation of any law of the United States. To impede the operation of any law of the United States. That sounds overly broad. Or to intimidate or prevent any person holding a place or office under the government of the United States from undertaking, performing, or executing its trust or duties, or any persons or persons with intent shall counsel or advise an attempt pure insurrection, riot. Okay. That has to do with what we're talking about. So apparently all the people who said that this doesn't require judicial review are either lying or wrong, and I was totally wrong. I was totally wrong. About being prosecuted. Okay, yeah. I mean, it pretty much says it right here in Section 2. That after the proclamation, it shall be the duty of the courts of the United States and of each state, because they have jurisdiction, that these judges and justices of the courts of the United States, they shall be authorized upon this complaint against any alien or alien enemy who shall be the resident and at large within such jurisdiction of that court or justice to blah, 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 contrary to the other regulations shall, yeah, yes, okay. So basically, this charges the courts that upon complaint that an alien has that an alien enemy has been identified and must be deported. If I'm reading this correctly, this explicitly gives jurisdiction for the courts. Right? It says it has to have some type of judicial review. Right? Because if they are residing within an area where that district or judge or whatever or court is, then they have to go to that place. So when the Supreme Court sent that shit back to Texas, this is why. Because they did it in DC. And contrary to the tenor of intent of such proclamation or other regulations which the President of the United States shall make to cause an alien, so they shall be hereby respectfully authorized upon complaint. So once the complaint has been authorized, once a complaint has been made, the court is authorized to cause such aliens to be duly apprehended and convened before such a court. This right here, bam, right here. That right there. Judge or justices, and after a full examination and hearing on such complaint. So, I mean, that seems pretty explicit to me. That they are absolutely violating the law. If they're not giving these guys at least some type of judicial review. Insufficient cause, and therefore hearing may order the alien to be removed. I love, or give sureties of their good behavior. What? Man, they were wild back in the day. You gotta admit that, right? I mean, to be fair, they didn't have internet. They didn't have cameras. You know, this is all just, hey, you know what? If you're gonna wander off into the wilderness and not fuck with nobody, you know what? You can just go the fuck ahead, right? That's kind of what they're saying there. Also, it must be comfortable, apparently. I'm just talking shit. So, and sufficient cause therefore appearing may order the aliens or aliens to be removed. So once they've had their court date, they can be removed, restrained, imprisoned, or otherwise secured. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. So I could still be wrong. I could be completely misinterpreting what's going on. But it does appear that they are absolutely not doing it right. That is 100% where that's going. And if that's the case, I'm not really okay with it. Not at all. Well, what? What do you mean? What? This is this is just a random fucko on Twitter, but here's something that I gotta state for the record. Okay. President of the United States sent a man to El Salvador to a prison. Get the man back. All the president has to do, or have one of his lackeys do this, is call up the president of El Salvador or his lackeys and be like, yo, motherfucker. Yeah, that motherfucker we sent you? Yeah, send that motherfucker back. Put him on we'll send a plane. You put him on it. We'll take care of the rest. What? Come on now. Go fuck yourself. The court holds an order to effecate a return. Yes, I am literally going to look this word up because I have no fucking clue what it means. It's a transitive verb. To be the cause of something. To bring about something or the effect.
Effectuate.
Effectuate. Okay, thank you. A return to the U.S. goes too far. Scotus order makes clear that entry to the U.S. is not appropriate remedy either. All right, we're going to read it again because apparently my reading comprehension skills are atrocious. We're just going to keep doing it until we understand it. Oh. Okay. He's currently detained. The United States acknowledges was subject to withholding and that the removal was therefore illegal. So it literally says here that his removal was illegal. The error. Maryland, okay. The application is granted in part and denied in part, subject to the direction of this order. Due to the administrative stay issued by the Chief Justice, the deadline imposed has now passed. To that extent, the government emergency application is effectively granted in part, and the deadline in the challenged order is no longer effective. Okay, so to the extent the government's emergency application is effectively granted, and the challenge to the order about the deadline is no longer effective. Deadline in the challenged order is no longer effective. Okay. So the government filed an emergency application for them to see this, and they threw out the deadline. The rest of the district court's order remains in effect but requires clarification on remand. The order properly requires the government to facilitate his release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. I don't know what that means exactly. Does that mean that he has to see a judge now in the United States for him to be redeported? The intended scope of the term effectuate in the district court's order is, however, unclear and may exceed the district court's authority. The district court should clarify its directive with due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch and conduct of foreign affairs. So this right here is literally the court stating that it needs to clarify what the fuck it meant, because the executive branch has power over foreign affairs, and if this is and this may exceed that power. For its part, the government should be prepared to share what it can concerning the steps it has taken and the prospect of further steps. The order entered by the Chief Justice is vacated. Statement. For its part, the government should be prepared to share what it can concerning the steps it has taken and the prospect of further steps. The order heretofore entered by the Chief Justice is vacated. Oh, there's no wonder. I was like, what the fuck is Chief Justice? What the fuck is going on with that? I was like, I thought they were referring to the district court judge, and because he's like, I don't know. But it's literally just the title of the presiding judge of the Supreme Court and the highest ranking officer of the federal judiciary. So the Chief Justice entered an administrative stay. Okay, the application granted. Okay, and down here when it says that's page 2. In part. Okay, here we go. The order heretofore entered by the Chief Justice is vacated. So his stay has been vacated. The part of the deadline was thrown out, and they said that the government does have to facilitate his release from custody, but the term effectuate, it may go beyond the judicial power when it concerns the balance of power between the executive and the judicial. That's a really wordy way of saying the court may have overstepped its power in the language that it used. And that this part right here just means that the stay of the order from the lower court judge has now been vacated. So the lower court judge's order is technically still in effect, but it has to go back to that lower court so that they can define effectuate and make sure that it's within the bounds of the power of the thing, of the courts. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that is. So Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. So they're basically just telling the story. Government has not challenged the validity of that order. Leave. Doesn't matter if he's a husband and father. Like, that's bullshit. Like, why are you putting that in there? Oh, because it pulls on heartstrings. This is a goddamn court document. The only people who read it are fucking retard nerds like me. Like, these are supposed... It doesn't matter. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, because I know for a fact that the people that both left and right and no matter which team you're on, they all do this stupid shit. I fucking hate it. Like this part, like the criminal record part is absolutely, you notice I didn't say anything about that? That's because that's actually a good thing to point out. He doesn't have a criminal record. He's been here for how fucking long? And he's had like a couple traffic tickets, I think. I still don't understand. I still don't get the thing about the MS-13 because this is the thing: is that another court found that he was probably an MS-13 gang member, or that he was an MS-13 gang member. So, as far as the courts determining that he was a MS-13 gang member, that was yes, he was. But they also gave him an order of protection, probably because they were going to kill him if he went back. And then the question you have is that do you give a single about a former gang member who basically may have done some stupid shit to his own gang and now faces retaliation? I mean, unless he turned state's evidence, it's like I have a hard time feeling sympathy for a gang member who betrayed his gang and they want to fucking kill him. I feel for his family, that's for sure. I definitely feel sympathetic for them. And I'm going to say this: if he were smart, he would go to a place where gun laws are far more in the realm of protecting citizens over criminals. Just for that. One of the reasons I still live in Tennessee, other than it's my home, it's like I don't pay income tax. I mean, I wouldn't pay income tax anyway, but that's irrelevant. And there's a bunch of other reasons, including the fact of Second Amendment protection, self-defense protections, all that shit. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Our education system here is absolute shit, which is why I homeschool. Request that the United States cannot grant relief once a deported is crosses the border is plainly wrong. Yeah, that's a bullshit excuse. But I mean, all governments make bullshit excuses. To for the justices, these justices to act so indignant about it is like, And if I were to pour back through the things when Democrats were president and they were doing shit they shouldn't do, I'm sure you had the exact fucking opposite opinion on many occasions. Because that's what activist judges are. That is, if they're the case. But I seriously doubt that they would... Anyway. I probably shouldn't have said anything about that. Because it's one of those things where I absolutely... Sotomayor, I absolutely respect. Because she said a lot of things. While I disagree the fact that she's a fucking... I disagree with a lot of things that she says. One of the things that really hit me, I was like, that is some really good stuff right there, is the day she came out and was like, she was like, I respect Justice Thomas, and, he's a kind of, pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of guy. My only contention with that is that some people don't even have bootstraps. And I'm like, I like that. I like that a lot. Because that really hits home to where things like welfare is actually a social good. In the fact that there are some people who are so low, they literally do not have the ability to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And because of that, because they don't have the bootstraps per se, if you can just give them enough to where they can, it's like on the pull-up bar, right? Where you're helping a dude and you're just barely putting 5, maybe 10 pounds of pressure just so he can help, just so he can get up over that bar, right? So he can actually do the thing and get those muscles working. That's kind of how I view the pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Some people don't have bootstraps, so we should probably help them achieve. We should probably help them with finding those bootstraps. The government argument, moreover, implies that it could deport and incarcerate any person, including a U.S. citizen, without legal consequence, so long as it is done before the court can intervene. Okay. I agree with the court's order that proper remedy is to provide with all process to which he would have been entitled to had he not been unlawfully removed. I can agree with that. That means the government must comply with its obligation to provide with due process of law, including notice, and an opportunity to be heard in further proceedings. Convention against torture. Why did you bring up Convention Against Torture? It's a bunch of just cases. Governing the detention of Prince. Is she basically saying that sending him to the maximum security gang prison in El Salvador? You know, the one that's possibly the most transparent prison on the planet? That prison? It's torture? I mean, if that's the case, then most of our prisons in the United States would be considered torture, wouldn't they? Because they are far worse than that. From everything I've seen of that prison, it is orderly, clean, and they don't fuck with each other. They're all... What else are they going to do? Like, I mean, when you see... Like, think about it like this. They're all wearing white. So if there was a bunch of shit going on that was really bad, would their clothes be bright white? Would they not be dirty? Perhaps bloodstained? Would they not be in tatters? This is the kind of thing, is like, would the facility not be dirty itself if it were not well maintained? Right? These are things, it's just like little clues. Because when you look at some of the prisons in the United States, they look like shit, right? I've seen pictures of Rikers Island. I was like, God, that's horrible. Like, why are we putting people in these conditions? And it's... So, and to be fair, these are not actual reasons as to why they're not torturing them or cruel and inhuman or degrading treatment and punishment. So, that's not an argument against that. It's just, these are clues that you look for when you're looking for these things, right? How well is the prison maintained? How is order kept? Right? Do they beat prisoners to maintain order, or do they just use overwhelming psychological force? Overwhelming force and psychological manipulation to make compliance. These are two different things. But I am just talking out of my ass because I'm not an expert in any of this shit. This is simply my opinion. Okay. And I still maintain the argument that, like I made a couple days ago on my stream, where in times of great strife, we here, and in the West in general, often do suspend civil liberties for security. And I know the quote about Benjamin Franklin. I'm not talking about like 9/11 and all that shit. What I'm talking about is during the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, arrested journalists, arrested his political rivals, went to Maryland and arrested like half of the fucking state legislature, shit like that. Created a secret police to go out and arrest people, shut down newspapers, all that kind of shit, right? Hold people without charge for years on end. Charge, you know what I'm saying? And so, and everybody views him as like the savior of the nation, right? When we look at FDR, everybody bitches about the internment camps, but FDR was a good president, right? I hate to say this, but dude, the internment camps were not... how should I put this? They were bad in the fact that they disenfranchised so many people who didn't need to be disenfranchised. They weren't good. I'm not going to say that. But they may have been necessary. Right? Because, this is here, just... If it's potential that literal foreign Nazis are coming into our country and subverting our rule of law, they're over here to spy for whatever fucking government they work for, right? Are we just not allowed to do anything about that? Especially when we're at war with these nations? And it sucks because what that means is that you have to punish essentially all Germans and all the Japanese and all the Italians, which is kind of bullshit. I will absolutely admit that. And it's one of those decisions where it's like, did you agree with Abraham Lincoln, what he was doing? But you don't agree with what FDR did, but FDR was still a good president, right? How do we square that circle? A good president who made a bad decision? Or a good president who had like 5 shitty choices and he chose the best one that he could think of. That's really what it boils down to. And so the reason I'm bringing all this up is because the amount of criminal aliens that have crossed our border is insane. Like, some people are throwing around like 30 million, 20 million. I have no idea if it's that much. I just know it is too much. That's as simple as, right? And it's been going on for decades. That's one of the biggest issues, is that it's not just the recent surge of them. It's the fact that before even Trump took office, our border was essentially porous. The gangs, the cartels, the Mexican mafia, they essentially controlled the area around certain areas around our border as if they were their own fucking states. And so when you have an emergency like this, it is absolutely 100% within the realm of possibility that you can and should, in some cases, suspend civil rights of these individuals. These civil rights of these individuals. Because think about it like this: if every single criminal alien who's here today is required to be apprehended, taken before a court, and seen, think about how logistically we do that if the number is anywhere near 20 or 30 million people. That is what you call undue burden. Let me see if I'm talking out of my ass. Undue burden. Undue burden. All right, let's see if I'm talking out of my ass. Undue burden refers to a situation where a requirement or regulation imposes a significant difficulty or expense, often used in legal contexts to assess the constitutionality of laws and regulations, particularly those affecting fundamental rights such as abortion access. It is also applied in the context of Americans with Disabilities Act to determine if providing accommodations would cause significant difficulty or expense to a business or state or local government. So this is this right here, the Disabilities Act one. I actually understand this one, mainly because I've had to deal with it a little bit. And it's essentially like, imagine you have a historical building that's multiple stories, right? It's like, let's say it's a 400-year-old cottage, or not a cottage, a mansion or some shit that was owned by some fucko, long ago, and it's a historical site now. But it's multiple stories, so there are stairs. But the Americans with Disabilities Act requires you to put shit like elevators and stuff like that into these places so that people who are in wheelchairs or who can't walk good or walk upstairs can access it, right? But this might be an undue burden upon this place because it is a historical site, so you don't want to destroy the site just to put in an elevator, right? That would fuck it up historically, and it may be an undue burden. It may be overly expensive to install some kind of like outside thing, which would also disrupt it historically. So there could be a reason why you could not have to abide by the Americans with Disabilities Act for historical purposes, because it may just cost too fucking much. Like, imagine if the place is like out in the middle of nowhere and it would cost millions of dollars to install some kind of fucking thing so that, wheelchair bound people can access the top floor, right? It's like, it would be cool, but until we invent like transporters or a more easy way to do this, it's not feasible for a business and or historical site or both to do such a thing, right? This is just a random example I pull off the top of my ass, right? And there are plenty of places like this where I think it's also in New York. There are a few things like this where they have historical buildings that don't have elevators, and they're not required to get them because it would literally require them to tear the fucking building down, right? In the middle of New York City, and then rebuild it. Like that. That's not going to happen. Again, I could be talking out of my ass, but this is what I'm talking about when it's like, if you've got, let's just say it's 10 million. Let's just cut it in half at the lower number that I said, and let's just say it's 10 million in the recent thing. That's 10 million people scattered across the United States that you now have to spend money to not only apprehend, but hold so that until a court can see them, and that means you have to pay the judges and all the judicial stuff has to be paid for. So they are so not only did they enter the country illegally and become a criminal in the process, they are now costing us untold millions of dollars in tax money for their due process, which is normally fine, right? Normally, everybody would be like, yeah, sure, you know, everybody deserves due process, including fucking terrorists that bomb shit, sure. But now, because of the volume, it could become an undue burden upon the entirety of the United States justice system to do this. I don't know if that's a way you can interpret that law. I don't know if you can apply it to this. I don't even know that, right? Because it's one of those things where this is me talking from an extreme layman and from an extreme layman position, and I don't really, you know, understand how it could be applicable. But it seems like it would be, considering like if you wanted to get all of them out and you had to abide by this process, then it would take you for fucking ever, right? It's not only the amount of money, but it's also the time in which they all get to stay here, right? So for me, it's like I'm waffling between these two, because it's like they absolutely deserve due process. There's no question about that, right? Not only is it legal, it's the humane thing to do, just hands down, right? It's legal, it's moral, it's humane, all those good things. But then on the other side of that, you have the fact that the victim of these people is the United States of America and its people. And we are being victimized by these people, by them breaking our laws. And so, is it an undue burden upon the victim, which is the United States and its people, to ensure that all of these individuals, even if we have overwhelming evidence that they are like enemy gang members and all this other stuff, that they should be given due process? And again, one of the biggest reasons I waffle is exactly what Justice Sotomayor said. Apparently not. Basically, she said that the excuse they give would allow them to apprehend and deport citizens, and that's bad. That is actually bad. So yeah, this is why I'm just like, I want the Supreme Court to fucking, I want them to adjudicate this in its entirety. And I hate the fact that for so many of these things, the court doesn't want to adjudicate, because unfortunately we're in a situation, especially because we're so politically polarized, that the Supreme Court hasn't wanted to do a lot of things lately, simply because it could either cause unrest, or it would make the court look so bad that people would lose faith in the court system. And that kind of sounds bad, right? That instead of adjudicating based on the law, that the Supreme Court might adjudicate based on how the Supreme Court is perceived. But see, this is the problem, right? Laws are not always moral, right? We know this, right? It was legal for the Jews to be rounded up and exterminated. So, though it pains me to say it, there is a legitimate argument to be made that if a Supreme Court makes a decision based on the fact that they need to ensure that people still trust the Supreme Court and that it has integrity, that's important. That's one of the reasons why I don't like activist judges. That's one of the reasons why I like a few of them, both on the left and the right, like Sotomayor and Thomas, is because they have often, on many occasions, gone against their own political side based on either of those two criteria that I just made. Either it's because it threatens the legitimacy of the court, or it's just fucking wrong, morally and legally, right? Or just legally, I should say, because that's usually what they rule on. Let's just be real. Like there have been several of the red team ones that I despise because they, Kavanaugh being the prime example. Just some of his rulings were just like, oh my God, dude, you're such a fucking neocon. So we're really in a place where, what do we do, right? right? Because here's my contention. The people that essentially allowed this to take place are now bitching that we're not following the rules. That's the real problem that I think so many people have with this, is that you have an entire team, right? The blue team basically didn't follow the rules, broke the rules, and facilitated changing the rules to allow this to happen. And now that it has happened, now they're bitching that the other team who's trying to fix what they fucking broke is not following the rules. Do you see how retarded this is? Now, it's true they should follow the rules, and that two wrongs don't make a right. 100%. Unless you're Abraham Lincoln.
This is not going to be a free ride.
By the way, I voted for this motherfucker the first time. And you want to know why I voted for this motherfucker the first time? Because he spoke eloquently about the Constitution.
It's not going to be some instant amnesty. What's going to happen is you are going to pay a significant fine. You are going to learn English. You are going to go to the back of the line so that you don't get ahead of somebody who was in Mexico City applying legally. But after you've done these things over a certain period of time, you can earn your citizenship.
What the fuck?
So that it's not something that is guaranteed or automatic. You've got to earn it, but over time, you give people an opportunity. Now,
and you know what's funny? I really do agree with this. I do think we should allow those who have come here illegally a pathway to citizenship that is very similar to this. And the reason is because if you give them, it's like this, it's a general principle. If you do not allow for forgiveness, then the people who have done you wrong have no reason to abate. They have no reason to come clean. They have no reason to stop doing what they're doing. But if you show them the light, if you give them a path in the distance, it's like if you do right, you can come back from the brink, many will take it. And they'll do it with fervor, and they'll do it with gratitude. Damn it.
it only works, though, if you do all the pieces. I think the American people, they appreciate and believe in immigration, but they can't have a situation where you just have 500,000 people pouring over the border without any kind of mechanism to control it. So we've got to deal with that at the same time as we deal in a humane fashion with folks who have put down roots here, have become our neighbors, have become our friends. They may have children who are U.S. citizens. That's the kind of comprehensive approach that we have to take.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with anchor babies. I think it's possibly one of the most retarded concepts we've ever come up with. I do not like it. Because it essentially rewards people who break the law by allowing them to come here and use it to basically keep themselves here. Because if you have a baby, right, and let's say they're like 2, and you're like a single mom, or maybe it's 2 parents, right? It's one of these things where it's like it's going to be hard to deport you now because your child is literally an American citizen. So we either have to fucking give them to up for adoption, or put them in a home and then deport the parents. Like, that sounds fucking horrible, right? That's not something you want to do. And so that's why I fucking hate it. That's why I hate
this is not going to be a free ride.
Citizenship based on just being in the United States. Like, that is not cool. Yeah, we're gonna listen to more.
For those who are,
I love listening to Obama's speeches about immigration and all the constitutional stuff. Like, he's a good speaker. He's a great orator, and this is why I voted for him.
We are a generous and welcoming people here in the United States, but those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law. We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States.
And I want to say this just as an aside. As a man, I have way more in common with Barack Obama being a fucking black man from Chicago and me being a white man from Tennessee than I ever would have with Hillary goddamn Clinton, who's from fucking Arkansas. Okay? All right. I just want to state that for the record. Like, fuck this racism bullshit. Me and him have more in common with one another than me and her. Right? This is why when this man speaks, he actually can speak to me, whereas Hillary Clinton never fucking spoke to me, dude. Never. Ever.
Undetected.
Except when she was parodying him.
Undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country. We are a generous...
Makes me mad. Makes me really, really mad. Shall we watch some people being fucking retarded? Let's watch some people being fucking retarded.
To seek out people living here illegally that have broken the law, to deport them. So I have a quote for you here that's been making the rounds on social media about the deportation of criminal illegal aliens. We are a nation of laws. Undocumented workers broke our laws, and I believe they must be held accountable, especially those who may be dangerous. That's why over the past 6 years, deportations of criminals are up 80%, and we're going to keep focusing on threats to our security. What's your thought on that quote and that policy in general?
I think that policy comes from a place of like white American nationalism. Donald Trump has kind of like embraced this rhetoric of like racism and xenophobia that is not beneficial to our country at all.
I don't think that quote really stands true.
This administration has totally not done anything moral.
This is really awful.
Amnesty does not necessarily mean that we're losing border security. I think that Trump feels that way.
I think that's a bad decision because like the United States should be open to like immigrants.
Like literally, I would have been like, "That's some base shit. Let's do that more."
Like it's like they call it land with the free for a reason.
We just have to advocate for those kind of people and people like in Congress, like Ocasio-Cortez, who is helping people overcome these kinds of things.
Crimes do not nullify your humanity, and people are coming here.
People bitch about how people are like in a cult of personality about Trump.
These kinds of things.
Crimes do not
call it land.
Ocasio-Cortez, who is helping people overcome these kinds of things.
Crimes do not nullify your humanity, and people are coming here in search of opportunity.
I'm going to show you the person that said that quote.
We're also a nation of laws. Undocumented workers.
Is that surprising?
Yeah, a little bit.
Why is that surprising?
Because I thought it was the Trump administration that said something like that.
Yeah, it's quite surprising. I thought it was from Trump.
I didn't expect it to be Obama either.
Why did you not expect it to be Obama?
Because
Not a mom who's working hard to provide for her
I guess, I don't know, like it just
Yeah.
it never occurred to me that it could be
Never
Obama.
thought
Is that surprising that it's a quote from President Obama?
Yeah, that was surprising for sure, yeah.
Do you think it's still a practice of white nationalism, though, to deport
To be fair to these people, it's. I mean, they're young, they're stupid. You know, they're in college for a reason, right? Like, let's just be real. It's not, anything against their character. I was absolutely this ignorant and fucking stupid when I was in college and I was in the Navy. Like, I'm still just. I'm like, no. I'm still this ignorant and stupid. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with these people, right? It's just they don't think outside of their Overton window.
criminal illegal aliens?
I think the way Trump
Practice of surprising that it's a quote from President
Yeah,
Obama.
that was surprising for sure, yeah.
Do you think it's still a practice of white nationalism, though, to deport criminal illegal aliens?
I think the way Trump's doing it is.
Okay. But President Obama, to this point in Trump's presidency, Obama actually deported more people, though. So it's in practice, it was more from Obama, though.
What's your question?
I'm pretty sure he's right.
I'd say my understanding of Obama versus Trump is that Obama was more liberal as far as amnesty and border security. I expected that quote to come from Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows the hypocrisy in politics. So one person can say something 5 years ago, and next thing you know, it doesn't apply to them anymore, and that they can now be the morality police for whoever is in charge now.
Bro. That pretty much sums up what I was talking about when I was saying that the people who allowed the criminal alien situation to get out of hand are now bitching about the current administration not following the rules when they're trying to fix the problem. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be following the rules. It's just know where these people stand. Remember that.
Does that change your opinion of the practice to know that President Obama did the same thing? Actually, to this point in his presidency, deported more people than President Trump had at this point.
This was during his first term, actually.
No, again, I just think that there's a moral way to do it, and I don't know a ton about Obama's deportation policies, but I imagine that they were a lot more humane than the ones currently going on.
You mean the giant cages he built? There's one with Hillary Clinton, too, where she's basically saying the same thing. Go to the back of the line, pay fines, pay back taxes, and then maybe, just maybe, you can get amnesty from your criminal actions, and you can get a pathway to citizenship. And, like, that's the thing, is, like, I was totally on board with all that shit. That was back when Team Red was like, no amnesty, no path to citizenship. And I was like, fuck that shit. Because it's like, if you don't give people a path to redemption, then they're just gonna keep fucking you in the ass. There's no reason to stop being an asshole if there's no reward for not being an asshole, right? If I still treat you like shit, you're not gonna want to do anything. All right. So, let's see what else there was.